only the juiciest support pole.
Doesn't even need it. Just gonna go to head one, clip him, no problem. Gonna get another one, he can! It's a trap!
In the opening week of the Overwatch League, Dallas Fuel struggled to overcome communication and roster issues. Zenyatta became a DPS hero, and we got to see some incredible games. So let's break down all the news from the past week.
Here's the hard carry, gets Benny with the Deadeye, and there's another one. Pine, this guy is unstoppable.
Dallas Fuel have the most support of any team in the Overwatch League, but they also had two of the toughest opponents for their first week, and although at times they showed moments of greatness, eventually communication issues and a lack of flexibility during games let them down.
And soon backcaps it, that is... Alright, uh-oh. You can't let that happen.
Speaking on his stream following their second defeat, Dallas Fuel's Effect talked about the problems facing his team and why they struggled. He mentioned that they have issues with their tanks currently being locked into very specific heroes. XQC on Winston or Coco on Reinhardt are the two examples he gave, and this makes it harder for them to shift strategies during a game. He also says that there was no main shot caller directing the team, meaning their dives were unfocused and they were unable to take out specific targets as quickly as needed to.
Alright, Zimba demeched early. Good start for Dallas. Ooh, but Taimu does fall. Fleta in the back lines, a kill the chips. Another one onto Harry. Fleta going crazy, trying to make another run. Effect, he gets it. That's 4 kills for Fleta already on Seoul Dynasty.
This was evident in both of their matchups, but particularly against the LA Valiant, where small mistakes around the payload caused them to lose on both Junkertown and Numbani.
Wonder what Seagull's gonna do with that ult. He gets a chance to pop that. Could find some picks. Here we go. Riptire coming in. Mickey does go down. No! Mickey died! Mickey died! That's and they couldn't res him before the overtime.
Dallas has a very interesting roster, as they have a lot of players who are amazing on particular heroes, but many of them lack deep hero pools. Effect mentioned the issues with the tank lineup, but on Reddit, Gunba, the assistant coach for the LA Valiant, also pointed out a similar issue with Seagull and Taimu having very little overlap, making it very easy to read and counter what they're doing based on their substitutions before the game even begins. However, Dallas also showed moments of greatness against Seoul in 3 of their games that were very close, and while they have had a tough first week, don't sleep on this team. They played against 2 of the best teams in the league this week, and their communication issues and hero pools can be improved over time. They remain serious contenders for the title.
Definitely does. Whether Custa has to use that Valkyrie there, that's the next question. But same thing from Unko. He's just going to get mowed down in the sky.
He was so brave.
This week had many stunning performances, but New York Excelsior's Pine and Jonak are 2 that really stand out. Pine only played in 2 games all weekend, but his performances on McCree were so incredible, I can just let them speak for themselves.
Somersaults in, that's another 3-kill life for Pine.
Okay, so in the span of 25 seconds, he gets the Deadeye!
Jonak also had some great games, but during their match against the Houston Outlaws, he did just under 40,000 damage on Zenyatta.
You see some of the defensive replays coming in now. Jonak on the Zenyatta. Is he the most dangerous support player in the Overwatch League right now? In terms of damage on Zenyatta, absolutely.
Day 1 kicked off with both the LA teams getting decisive victories over their opponents, but it was the final game of the day that drew the most attention as Dallas Fuel took on the Seoul Dynasty. It was in the first couple games here that Dallas really showed their potential, as they were victorious on Junkertown and fought an incredibly close game on Temple of Anubis.
Got the main there now for Seoul Dynasty, but he can push people back. They're so close, they've nearly got it. Fleta falls, and that will be at 4:30 on the clock for Dallas Fuel.
Seoul are most pundits' favourites to win the league, so this strong start really meant a lot for Dallas. But after losing out on Anubis, they struggled to recover quickly, and Seoul crushed them on Ilios, thanks in no small part to some amazing Lucio play from Toby and Fleta as Pharah.
The bottom of the well. Put in the well during Transcendence even. That one stings a bit. Toby going wild on this Lucio right now. Finds chips as he flies by. There's another one. And another one! Mickey into the well, courtesy of Fleta with some help from Toby.
On day 2, the Florida Mayhem managed to take the first game against the London Spitfires, but the London team quickly regrouped to decisively win the rest of the games.
time. They need it right now because you just got Blade swinging left and right, and Prophet doing what he does best. Hunts down Zupe, gets the follow-up on Manadin, and it does look like London Spitfire will hold.
That pulse bomb was a huge swing back and forced out.
New York also beat the Boston Uprising 3-1 with some incredible plays from Pine, but the big story of the day was Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Houston Outlaws. This was Philadelphia's first match as they were unable to compete in the preseason. Predictions going into the series had the Outlaws winning 3-1, but at the end of the first game, it was Fusion coming away with the victory. The two teams went back and forth, eventually taking it to a final showdown on Lijiang Tower in a Game 5 tiebreaker, where it was Philadelphia who came out on top with a dominant control performance.
It's just going to be a little bit too little too late. Raucus gets there with the aforementioned Transcendence, finally gets to use it, but no one's there to see how fabulous he looks. There it is, the Fusion get it done. Welcome to the Overwatch League. We're lucky to have you.
On day 3, Boston played very well against Florida, taking the series 4-0, while the San Francisco Shock defeated the Shanghai Dragons 3-1. But once again the headline match included the Dallas Fuel, this time going up against the Los Angeles Valiant. The first couple games were nail-bitingly close, with the Valiant coming out on top in one of the longest Junkertown matches ever seen in professional Overwatch, but as I mentioned before, the match finally ended when Dallas made a small but costly mistake of getting off the payload and leaving just Mickey as Orisa to contest.
He gets a chance to pop that. Could find some picks. Here we go. Riptire coming in. Mickey does go down.
Mickey died! Mickey died,
That's
and
it.
they couldn't res him before the overtime.
Game 2 was once again incredibly close, actually ending in a draw, but it was Ilios for Game 3 where things really fell apart for Dallas.
Another pulse bomb ready to go. He may not even need it. Throws it in possibly for fun. Nope, he's going to hold on to it. OT ticking away, and Valiant will take the series as they take Ilios.
A hurting Dallas then failed to recover for Game 4 on Numbani and were crushed by the Valiant.
It's looking pretty good for Valiant, I gotta say. Harry Hook taken out. Mickey, the last man standing on the point. Maybe a few more can get in there. Effect has a Dragon Blade, but can he get there in time? Time ticking away, and that is it. LA Valiant will take Numbani, and they will take the series 3-0.
For the final day, things kicked off with the London Spitfires really living up to their potential with a 4-0 victory over Philadelphia. In particular, their defensive rounds have been outstanding all week. Then New York defeated the Outlaws, then Seoul finished everything up with a great game against the LA Gladiators.
Dragon Blade doesn't quite work out. Wicked greets hydration there with a concussive mine, and he gets very little done with that ultimate. In fact, he's not going to have it even refunded.
So with the first week down, we can see the London Spitfires are leading the Atlantic Division, while the Los Angeles Valiant are at the top of the Pacific. The Valiant are the only team not to have lost a single map, having won 7 and drawn once, and just behind them in the Pacific Division are Seoul with 6 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss. The Spitfires have won 7 games and lost 1, putting them just behind the Valiant overall, with New York just behind Seoul with a 6-2 record. Looking forward to next week, we have some great games coming up. Dallas Fuel have 2 pretty tough opponents once again, with the Outlaws on Wednesday and then the Spitfires on Friday. The Spitfires actually have a pretty tough week as well, as they will also be taking on the Los Angeles Valiant, meaning that we will see the top 2 teams in the standings going head to head. What are your predictions for next week's games? Let me know in the comments below, and also please leave any ideas for what you'd like to see more of in these weekly Overwatch League recaps. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, this is James for Curse saying thanks for watching, and enjoy the game.
When he turned off the stream, he went on to Discord and he said, he tagged me and Coco and said, tomorrow duke with me and let's he said, call target. Because if it was a him only thing, he would just go back and practice his aim, right, and become better at the game. That's what he does. But for once, it was something that he can't control, which is us, and he wants us to be better as a team.